one of my favorite packages to get in the mail. Woohoo! Oh yeah. That's the ticket right there. That would be their billet elbow for the operator with a 4-to-3 reducer. And their quick seal design. Pretty sweet. Get this bad boy all bolted up. Alright guys, race week update, week 2. Gonna go over what we got done last week and talk about stuff we're gonna try and get done this week. Thankfully we got a lot done. As you can see, the clock is ticking down very, very fast. I think we're ahead of schedule, to be honest, but I don't want to slack off because stuff like this can sneak up on you real fast. All it takes is one part that's back ordered or delayed, and then we're in a world of hurt. So let's go over all the stuff we got done this week. All right, so first things first, we got our billet elbow in. That showed up in the mail. It's a Motion Raceworks piece. Super nice. Came with quick seal clamp. We're 3-inch intercooler piping, so we needed a step down, which is what that is. Got my fan relay box installed, so this is all the relays. It's triggered off the factory wiring, which is tapped into in the cab, and then all this stuff is power. So we ran all this power and got it done this week, so now we're kind of ready to get a battery and test everything. Down here we got our fans wired in. I wanted to use DTM connectors, but I couldn't find one that was, I think the brand's called DTP or style. I couldn't find one that had the right size wire because this is 10 gauge, so it's pretty heavy duty stuff because the fans draw a lot of amps. But we just went with the tried and true GM Metri pack, so I mean, it's fine. These will work just fine. Like I said, this is from Current Performance also, this whole fan box, and that's what powers this thing. Pretty nice little piece. It's all weatherproof, it's gasketed, uses standard relays, and I just riv nutted it to the factory fuse box. Got the factory fuse box back installed, so all that's normal. What else? Let's see here. So we got all that wiring done. Go into the cab real quick. Got a bunch of stuff cleaned up in the cab. So you remember there's a big spaghetti mess right here. Now it's all nicely zip tied up and out of the way. Not thrilled with it, but honestly, it turned out pretty good for the room I have, because the AC box runs on the back side of this dash from here to about midway over here. So there's no room behind this thing to put anything. To fit the ECU, I had to pull the airbag out. So there's just not a whole lot of room. But we got a bunch of stuff done. Got our remaining wires terminated to a plug. So now if I do decide to use any of these, most of them are not gonna be used, because like one of them's trans temp, which I'll have a gauge for, but my dash, because this is a V6 truck, my cluster doesn't even have a trans gauge or trans temp gauge on the cluster, so one of those wires wasn't used. One of the wires on it is a trigger for the factory fuel pump wiring. We can't use it because our fuel pumps are too big, it'll burn up the wiring. And then all this leftover stuff is from the Holley input-output harness, the first like 4 they give you. Most of it's going to be used for trans brake wiring. I got the trans plug and all that done. This is the trigger wire for the, actually I'm sorry, this is the 12 volt power for the trans brake. So that's got to be hooked up to a solid state relay, which I need to order. We've got these are going to be power. 2 of them will be power for buttons on the steering wheel, and as well as the micro switch in the shifter, so that way we don't have to hold the trans brake button in reverse to have reverse. These motion shifters are super nice because they come with that in there, so all of it works without having to do anything super funky. You can see we got, I'll come around the other side, we got the wheel installed. So the wheel's all in. I gotta do some funky stuff with this. This kit right here is to run a single wire for both the buttons. Motion makes it a really nice piece. Unfortunately, it is designed to work with their hub, and their hub only works with their steering column. I don't want to run the race car column quite yet because I want my factory ignition switch and turn signals and all that stuff to work, and to be honest, I don't have time to rewire it to like a PDM or something like that. Plus I like the stock location of all this stuff. So I have a plan for that. I'm going to make a bracket in CAD and send it off to Send Cut Send that will hold that down there like it's supposed to, and that's where this big Deutsch connector and the wire connects to, and then it runs up to where your buttons are at. That also works out well because this NRG hub has got a little bit of a gap. See that? That is because the horn delete button sticks out a little too far. Again, this stuff was all designed to run with Motion's parts, and I'm using NRG for it, so it's the only option I have. So I'm going to make that bracket so there's not a gap there like that, and everything sits flush, and then it will hold our wire kit. And so drawing this up in CAD's like no big deal. That'll be super easy. In fact, this is so small I can probably photocopy it and have like a 1-to-1 instead of trying to measure it with calipers. I can just draw the lines right over the top of the photocopy, ship it off to Send Cut Send, have them make me a nice little steel bracket that'll hold that about right there. So that's on the list of things to do this week. For one, would like to get this wiring on the ceiling tied up and out of the way. This is for the dome light. It's just ugly. There's really nothing to do with it. I'll probably glue the dome light on or double-side adhesive tape it. So that goes there. Okay, come out over here. We got our AC compressor terminated. Deutsch connector. It's a single wire hookup, so nothing super crazy there. Got my AC lines. You guys haven't seen those yet, but I got them cut to length and shipped out. So that guy's going to braze the lines, and then he's supposed to also make me a new hard line that won't be in the way of the compressor housing. So that'll be good. Found a fabricator to do my cold side, and he said he can do it. So that's a big list item. And then I also got all of my rear end parts ordered. So let me show you those real quick. Okay, so as you guys know, we're using the 10 bolts, so we're trying to make this thing live at power levels it was never designed for. So we're just trying to support everything everywhere we can. So gonna ditch the cap bolts for cap studs to try and keep stuff from walking around. We've got a Moser girdled rear diff cover, just for a typical 10 bolt, nothing's fancy. And then master rebuild kit for the 10 bolt because we have a Detroit True Track we're putting in where we are replacing the carrier, which I personally think is the weak point. We've got a Quick Performance 373 gear set, and then I'm waiting on, I haven't received yet, we're going to pick up a set of Dutchman C-clip axles. So the Dutchman C-clip axles are 30% stronger than stock. I think that's kind of the second gear weak point of the gear train back there is so first is the carrier, second is the axles, third is going to be your gear set. So all that stuff will be upgraded, so hopefully we don't have a problem, especially race week. We shouldn't have to push it that hard because we're only running 12s. So my goal this year, my primary goal is to finish. I think that's everyone's primary goal, their first go. My secondary goal is to place as high as we can in our index class. I mean, why go if you're not trying to win, right? So we're gonna at least try to win. Also got a strange pinion yoke. It's forged, so hopefully, you know, another part that tends to break under a lot of drivetrain stress. hopefully that'll help with that. The HD caps for this thing, like I said, are on back order. So how I mentioned that you got to be careful with back ordered stuff. That would not be good because you got to have those to attach to the drive shaft. So got those ordered. Hopefully in a couple weeks they'll be here. Then we can have the drive shaft made. This week, hopefully, so this is the other module for my fuel pumps. I would like to get this installed this week. I think we're going to put it close by because we got plenty of wiring. Something like that there on that side. So everything's real easy to access and not out of the way. Also, this has trigger wires on it that I have to hook up to the trigger wires in the cab, so I'm going to have to pull wire through. And the Holly will stage the fuel pumps so we're not running both at the same time and boiling the fuel or something stupid. So that's on the list. Oh, here we go. Replace the little oil cooler gasket on the side of the oil pan. I had the wrong one. I needed the one where it's an O-ring around the outside, not through the center like that. Around the outside, not through the center like that. Unfortunately, when I did that, I discovered one of the bolts is stripped out, or the threaded hole is stripped out. It never gets tight, so I'm gonna have to helicoil that at some point. I don't want to get on race week and then lose that bolt and have a massive oil leak, because that is a pressurized area. You know, it'll see 60-70 pounds of oil pressure at wide open throttle. And the last thing I want to do is oil down the track or lose oil pressure on this brand new engine. Any of that is not good, especially if you're in the middle of nowhere. So we're gonna get that taken care of. It's not a big deal, it's just stuff that has to be done. Need to pull my wires for my boost controller. It's already terminated. I put a plug on it a couple weeks ago. There's that, so I just need to run them in the cab and hook them up to the Dominator. What else? Like I said, the trans brake stuff, I need to plug in my input outputs there and run everything, order my buttons, get those set up, and then what I'd like to do, I think probably my main goal this week is to get a battery for this thing, terminate all my ends over here, all my power and ground, and put power to this thing and make sure we don't have any magic smoke coming out of anything that's not supposed to. And we should be able to hear like relays click and things like that, so then we can test our pinning, because V6 of Holly allows you to do that. We should be able to turn fans on and off, click injectors, click coils, should be able to turn the AC compressor on and off, stuff like that. So that's the plan, is to test all that before we go much further, because right now if I have a wiring problem, it's very easy to cut all those zip ties and I can access everything. As we get further and further along, that's going to get harder and harder to do. I also want to see if the battery terminals that I bought are going to work, and like the battery sits low enough to not hit the hood and fits in the tie down correctly, because we're stock location. Still need to do power steering. That is on the list. It's kind of lower priority because it won't be too difficult to do. Don't know if I mentioned this. I also ran alternator wiring, so that's done. Alternator's all wired up, even has the boot just like stock. Use the fusible link just like stock, so it's actually fused, the charge side. Also ran, I don't even know if you can see it, you can see some of it, ran our starter wiring. That's done and all hooked up. Maybe you can see it down there. I don't know if you can or not, but starter wiring's done, so we made quite a bit of progress this week. I feel a lot better. I was kind of having a panic attack last week after I got into race week and then realized, holy cow, we have so much stuff to do and I have no time. Another thing I need, I just spotted it, my wideband. Got to get an O2 sensor to hook up to that. This stuff is all, one's a low coolant sensor. We won't be using that. We don't have an expansion tank anymore. So, what else? Heater lines. I have a guy for that. I just need to order them. Not super worried about that. That's an easy hour job at most to make lines and run them. Need to run radiator lines. So the plan with that is to use Aeroflow AN lines, and they make an adapter to adapt the necks to AN. I'm gonna try it. I don't really want to knock those out and weld in AN bungs, because if you have an AN line failure for whatever reason, that Aeroflow stuff I'll just be able to take off, and I can just stick a regular radiator hose on both ends if there's a major issue. So kind of like that idea. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but we're going to get that sorted sooner rather than later, because I don't know in my head how that's going to play out. Plan is to have the radiator fill somewhere around here. That's the highest point in the engine bay. It's higher than the steam ports and the water pump and all that, so that should help us with bleeding and keep our loops nice and short so we don't trap any air. Yeah, just everything. I need bulbs for the headlights. Yeah, so that's kind of this week's update. Hopefully this wasn't too long-winded or boring, but this is kind of what it's going to be like, because I just don't have time to film install stuff. So, I do have one other thing. Let me show you that. Pretty sweet little piece made by Racewire Solutions. It's a billet USB bulkhead connector. So the plan is to mount this thing somewhere on the dash. I haven't quite made up my mind yet. Part of me wants to put it here, but I might put a Holly screen there. If I can fit it behind here in one of the cigarette lighters, I would consider doing that also. But this is gonna, so we don't tear the cable out of the Dominator and destroy a very expensive ECU. This eliminates that, because you keep all this stuff behind the dash, and then to plug into the ECU, you just pop your USB into that thing and it communicates directly with it. So nice little part, kind of fun. Just thought it was neat. I'd show it off because you don't see stuff like that too often. They make a couple different ones, one with powered port if you want to like charge your phone and junk, and then it has another one just specifically for the ECU. They have another one that has both of those and a battery voltage indicator in it. I kind of think that's gimmicky, but you know, it works, I guess. So alright guys, thanks again for watching this week. Appreciate the love and support as always. Keep in touch for next week. I'm going to do the same thing, showing our progress, how much time we have left again, and any hang-ups or anything weird that we're having problems with. I've still got a lot of stuff in the background that I need for this trip, unrelated. Well, it's related to the truck, but it's not like parts and stuff like that. Like I need to get tools, spares, gather everything up and ready to go, so that way we're 100% self-sufficient once we're on the road. So anyways, again, gonna plug my buddy's channel, Chris2 Race. He's co-driving with me. Please go check him out. We're both trying to grow our channels, so any little support that we can get. He has a lot of really cool import stuff. It's different from what I do, so you know, if you're looking for different content from me and you're big into the import side of things, he has some pretty cool cars he's working on. So go check him out. JSR Productions, that's the dude who's gonna build my rear end for me. He's got the tooling and the know-how, so I'm gonna let him do it. So thanks guys, see you next week.